Welcome to City on a Hill Kids Church Online.
I'm Laura.
And I'm Jimmy.
Today we're going to talk about Ephesians 4:2.
But that will be after a time of worship.
Today, our verse is taken from Ephesians chapter 4, verse 2, which says, "With all lowliness and gentleness, with long suffering, bearing with one another in love." I'm going to tell you what this means. It means that you shouldn't have a hoity-toity attitude, turning your nose up at people, thinking that you are better than them and you're feeling all self-important. It means that you should be gentle and patient when you're dealing with one another. You should be kind. You should put up with what your neighbor is doing and care for them in a gentle and kind way. I'm going to tell you a story in the Bible. It comes from 1 Samuel chapter 25. There was a man who had business in Carmel. He had thousands of sheep and goat. He was wealthy. His name was Nabal, and his wife's name was Abigail. Abigail was kind, she was good, and she was beautiful. On the other hand, Nabal wasn't very nice. He was mean, really mean. Now, when David heard that Nabal, was shearing his sheep, you do remember David, don't you? David that killed Goliath with a stone when he was just a boy. Yes, so David heard that Nabal was shearing his sheep. And after they shear their sheep, that's cut off all the wool from the sheep, they would normally have some kind of a feast for the people doing the shearing. And that's what happened. So David sent 10 of his men down to Nabal and asked if Nabal could just give a little bit from whatever feast he was making to give to David and his men. This was because David's men had protected Nabal's shepherds night and day. They were protected. Nobody came and stole any sheep. No animals came and stole any sheep. Nothing. They were protected. And David told Nabal this. And what was Nabal's response? Who is David? Who is the son of Jesse? Nowadays, servants are running away from their masters. Should I give part of my feast that I prepared for my shearers to somebody, people that I don't know? Huh. He was rude and insulting. So David's men went back to David and told him everything that happened. And David was angry. So he decided that he and 400 of his men were going to pay Nabal a visit. And that would not have been a very nice visit. David had purposed in his heart to do a terrible thing. He was going to get rid of all the men and boys that were associated with Nabal. One of the young men that had heard Nabal's response to David's men went and told Abigail, Nabal's wife, what happened, and confirmed that David and his men kept them safe all the time. So what she did was she prepared a feast and put them on donkeys and asked her servants to take it to David and that she would follow on behind. And that's what happened. But on the way, they met David coming down with his 400 men. She quickly got down off her donkey and bowed to him and said, "Oh, David, please, let me take responsibility for all the things that Nabal had said, and I apologize. Please take this feast." And she gave him some other advice that prevented him from going to meet Nabal. He was impressed with Abigail because she had shown a lot of wisdom. She had shown a lot of kindness. And he thanked her for the feast and the advice and turned back to his place. So you see, in this story, Nabal wasn't very kind. He was behaving in a hoity-toity manner, turning his nose up to David and his people. And he said things and probably did things that he shouldn't have. But Abigail came to the rescue. She was kind, she was gentle, she was patient, and this made sure that there was peace, because David would have done some things that wouldn't have been very kind to Nabal and his family. And also, he probably would not have been happy with himself with what he had done, because he would have been acting out of anger. But the kindness and the patience and the love of Abigail caused there to be peace and for things to get done. So I'll repeat the verse, Ephesians 4:2, which says, "With lowliness and gentleness, with long suffering, bearing one another in love." And that's the end of the story.
Hi guys, do you like my picture? I have called it Lowliness and Gentleness from the Bible verse that Ivy's been teaching us, Ephesians chapter 4 verse 2. Because I've got this lion who's the king of the beasts, he's so strong, and yet he's being really gentle. He's got this little butterfly fluttering around his head, it could be annoying him, but instead he's just smiling away, being gentle and lowly, not like Nabal in the story, but like Jesus is. So, this is really easy to draw, and we're just going to do it together right now. You can just do it along with me. So, why don't you go and get a piece of paper and a pencil, pause the video if you need to while you get it, and then we can get started. So the first thing that we're going to draw is a trapezium shape for the lion's head. So that's like a triangle with the top cut off. And give it slightly rounded corners because, this is a nice, soft, cuddly lion. Doesn't have sharp edges. And then do a sort of V shape joined together like that for his nose. And there's a line down and then his mouth. Now for his eyes, you want to do 2 oval shapes, like squashed circles. And then he's looking over this way at the butterfly. So draw 2 dark circles for his pupils over at this side. Now the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to draw the butterfly. Because if you look at this one, you'll see the butterfly overlaps with the lion's mane. So it's easier to draw the butterfly first and then the mane afterwards. So I'm sure you've all drawn butterflies before. Again, you want a long up and down vertical oval for the body, a nice round circle for the head, 2 antennae, and again you can do little circles on the end if you want, and then the butterfly's wings, which of course need to be symmetrical, so whatever you do on one side, you do again on the other. There we go, and we can decorate the wings a bit more later, but there we are. Once you've got the butterfly drawn in, then let's draw in the lion's mane. So just almost as if you were drawing like a sunflower. Just draw these nice big bits of fur coming around. Once you've got the mane drawn in, the next thing is, the ears. I nearly forgot the ears. So just a circle coming in behind the mane at each side. And then if you draw a sort of another semicircle above that and just shade that in, it just gives more of a 3D look. Once you've got the ears drawn in, we're going to have another trapezium underneath as the lion's body, and then we're going to have 2 semicircles in the middle at the bottom as his feet, and in each foot just do 3 vertical lines up to be his claws, and then a line up the middle to show his legs. Now his back paws, we can just see because of the way he's sitting, sticking out at either side. There we are. And then finally, his tail coming up. So a long line that just tapers slightly, and then a sort of a nice, arrowhead shape at the top, and we'll colour that in darker there. Good. Now we're just going to do a bit of shading. So first, again, we'll shade in the tail and the mane. So we're just colouring these in. Now you could do this all with coloured pencils. I actually think it looks quite nice as a black and white drawing. Sometimes I think it's quite nice just to draw in pencil, but obviously you could colour it. And if you did colour it in, then you'd be able to make your butterfly bright colours. So we'll get the whole mane coloured in. And then after that, we're just going to do some shading. I want you to imagine the light is coming from this side, so everything on this side is a little darker. So this side of his leg, this kind of shading where you just do lots of single lines coming up. This is called hatching, and it's a very useful way to shade. It just makes drawing look a bit more professional. There we are. I think we'll just do a bit more decoration on our butterfly, and then keep it symmetrical. Whatever you do on one side, do on the other. And then finally, we just need to write our words in. So what we're saying is lowliness and gentleness. What wonderful words. And they describe the way that Jesus is, don't they? And that's what we want to be like. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 2. Now, if you didn't want to do a butterfly, you could do all kinds of other little animals. You could have a bumblebee or a ladybird or even a little mouse down on the ground that the lion was looking at. But the idea is you have something big and strong, but which is choosing to be gentle and lowly. So, I hope you enjoy drawing this picture. I think it's quite a fun one. When I was practicing, I actually drew much smaller ones. I've got all these different small ones which you could do on a little card for somebody. So you can just experiment and enjoy doing some pencil drawing. I think that's a nice thing to do in the holidays. And I'll see you again soon. Bye!
With all lowliness and gentleness, with long suffering, bearing with one another in love.
Ephesians 4:2.
That really means that you should always be humble and gentle. We should be patient. That's what long suffering means. And accept each other with love.
Humble means not having an abnormally high opinion of yourself.
Nabal wasn't humble in any way at all. He was hoity-toity. I like that phrase, hoity-toity. It's funny. It means giving yourself airs and graces and feeling all self-important and making people feel beneath you.
Even if he wanted to say no to David and his men having some of the feast, he didn't have to be rude and insultive. It's great that Abigail took the responsibility of what he did and saved the day by being kind, humble, and patient.
Just like what it says in Ephesians 4:2. Let's say the verse again. With all lowliness and gentleness, with long suffering, bearing with one another in love.
Ephesians 4:2. That's it for this week.
Till next time, bye!